Hello and welcome to Chapter 4's PowerPoint presentation on financing healthcare. In this chapter, we discuss healthcare expenditures, the role of healthcare finance both through public and private sources. We will also examine the role of health insurance in the U.S. and identify the characteristics of what is termed managed care. Further, we will identify key legislation impacting the financing of healthcare and its various reimbursement systems. Lastly, we'll look at the challenges and opportunities facing the financing of healthcare. Although I'm sure many of you are familiar with the key terms listed on these few slides, for those who are not, many of these terms will be highlighted throughout this text and will hopefully become familiar to you by the end of the course. Some of the key concepts to consider is the national health expenditures and trends, both historical and projected, are reported annually by the National Center for Health Statistics. In the United States, NHEs, as they're called, are funded from both public and private sources. The United States healthcare financing is shaped by a variety of influences of factors, including provider, employer, purchaser, consumer, and political factors. As we will see, healthcare financing plays an important role in healthcare delivery and continues to undergo transformation to address population health as well as healthcare cost, quality, and access. Compared to 10 other high-income OECD countries or Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development countries, the United States had the highest healthcare spending, service utilization, and prices. A lack of insurance in the U.S. results in a lack of access, higher costs, and lower quality. Figure 4.1 provides a visual illustration as to how NHEs are funded, and as you will note, in 2019, the federal government financed the largest share of total health spending. This was followed by households, private businesses, state and local government, and private revenues. In 2019, national health expenditures grew by 4.6%, and the total expenditure was $3.8 trillion. This represented 17.7% of the gross national product, or GDP. Expenditures are projected to grow at an average annual growth rate of 5.2% between 2019 and 2028, which would bring the total spend on healthcare services to $6.2 trillion, or 19.7% of GDP. A truly unsustainable rate of growth. Figure 4.2 breaks it down even further by looking at total healthcare spending by particular services. At 31%, hospital spending is the highest cost, followed by other health services which include non-durable goods, residential care, administration and other state and local expenditures. Physician and clinic services contribute 20% of the expenditure, followed by prescription drugs, nursing care, dental, and home health care. As services continue to migrate to more ambulatory settings, nursing, dental, and home health will potentially grow as a percentage of the overall spend rate. As the text illustrates, healthcare spending has increased across all funding or payer sources. Medicare, for instance, is projected to experience the fastest growth with an annual growth rate of about 7.6% between now and 2028. This is fueled, mainly by an aging population that will demand more healthcare services, And with approximately 10,000 baby boomers retiring each day, Medicare enrollment is expected to set historic records, placing additional burden on federal budgets. One of the few positives to come out of the COVID-19 pandemic was a historic decline, 0.5%, in healthcare spending in 2021. Spending on health services and prescription drugs were down during this time frame. The world economies, including the U.S., slowed during the height of the pandemic. Despite this downturn, though, healthcare still represented a significant and larger portion of the GDP in the United States. As mentioned, some of the drivers of healthcare expenditures include an aging population, drugs and medical technology, a focus on specialty care, the uninsured and underinsured, volume-based reimbursement incentives, and labor intensity. Another major factor that contributes to this high spend rate is waste, fraud, and abuse, as defined in Figure 4.3. Studies show that waste can account for as much as 20 to 25% of total medical spending, with administrative waste being the highest at about $226 billion annually. This followed by fraud, which accounts for approximately $231 to $241 billion per year. Examples of fraud as defined by the OIG include billing for unnecessary medical services, misrepresenting diagnoses or procedures to increase reimbursement, paying for referrals, and upcoding for medical procedures or services, to name a few. The federal government has been more aggressive in recovering fraudulent reimbursements, and in 2019 recovered about $2.6 billion in such cases. Much like fraud, abuse can include billing for unnecessary services, misusing medical codes on claims, or charging excessively for services or supplies. A number of laws have been passed in an attempt to combat fraud and abuse. This slide highlights some of the statutes now in place to address these potential infractions. The OECD lists the U.S. as an outlier when it comes to health spending. On average, these countries commit to 9.6% of their budgets to healthcare services. Figure 4.5 shows that U.S. spends a total of $10,637 per capita compared to other OECD countries who spend around $5,527 per capita. The majority of the United States spend is on inpatient and outpatient care, where it is literally 3 times the amount of the average OECD country. The text highlights a 2020 Commonwealth Fund study comparing the U.S. to 10 other high-income OECD members. The key findings listed are well worth the review. Given that the U.S. by far spends more on health care, one would think it would result in a healthier population. Sadly, as the report indicates, the opposite seems to be the case. In an attempt to stem the tide of rising costs, insurers, through the managed care model, essentially transform the industry. Managed care and its many variations are the products of choice offered by today's insurers. Health maintenance organizations, as they were known, were created through federal legislation in 1973. As indicated in this slide, an HMO is population-based, risk is shared between insurer and provider. The model implemented a capitation arrangement rather than a fee for service and incentivized providers to manage their cost. The model has evolved from its start in 1973. However, some of its basic frameworks remain in place today. Today, health insurance in the United States is synonymous with managed care and managed care organizations, also known by the term health plans. Today, almost all Americans receive health insurance benefits through a managed care product. As this slide indicates, conventional health insurance, or what is known as fee-for-service plan, is virtually non-existent. What was once known as health maintenance organization can be viewed as an HMO, preferred provider organization, point of service, or a high deductible health plan or with a savings option. Today's managed care option comes in many forms and a variety of plans and incentives. Had Congress not succumbed to opposition by the American Medical Association, the Social Security Act of 1935 would have included some form of national health insurance. It wasn't until 1965 that the Social Security Act was amended to include what has become known as Medicare. Today, Medicare covers 57 million Americans, including those aged 65 and above, younger citizens who receive Social Security disability, and individuals with end-stage renal disease and ALS. Figure 4.7 provides a visual depiction that characterizes the Medicare population. Figure 4.8 provides an actual and projected average annual growth rate in Medicare and private health insurance spending from 1990 to projected 2027. When first enacted, Medicare consisted of two parts, A and B, which still exist today. Over the years, the legislative amendments have added parts C and D. Collectively, figure 4.9 illustrates the various parts and the sources of revenue. The text provides a more in-depth review of the various parts that make up the current Medicare program that includes the new prescription plan as well. Figure 4.10 gives you a visual depiction of the various Medicare payments by type of service that are currently being made and have been made since 2017. As illustrated in figures 4.11 and 4.12, the Medicare Trust Fund is rapidly being depleted. A combination of increased enrollment and Congress diverting funds from Medicare to cover general fund shortfalls. If this trend continues, Medicare will lack the necessary funds to cover the cost of beneficiaries by the year 2026, a mere 3 years away. This pie chart provides a breakdown of the traditional Medicare beneficiaries who have supplemental coverage and who provides this coverage. Medicare is not an all-encompassing insurance product, and as such, beneficiaries need supplemental plans such as Medigap, Medicare Advantage, or Medicare Supplemental. Each product, as articulated in the text, has its own requirements to participate. According to figure 4.13, 5.6 million or 17% only carry traditional Medicare, meaning they do not have a supplemental plan of any type and therefore would be responsible for any additional out-of-pocket expenses not covered by Medicare. Medicaid is a joint federal-state health insurance program in which financial support is shared. State Medicaid expenditures are matched by the federal government based on the state's federal medical assistance percentage, which may be adjusted from year to year based on a state's average personal income compared to the national average. The formula provided higher matching or reimbursements to states with lower per capita incomes, again compared to the national average. Figure 4.14 shows the spending and enrollment from 1998 to 2021. Approximately 28.9 million Americans were uninsured in 2019. This represents about 10.9% of the population. Changing economic conditions and increased job losses are listed as the main reasons for the increase in uninsured. The results show that this group has a higher rate of hospitalization and emergency care utilization. When hospitalized, the uninsured receive fewer diagnostic and therapeutic services and experience a higher rate of mortality. Overall, the lack of insurance results in a lack of access, higher costs, and lower quality. Here ends the presentation for Chapter 4. Thank you.